Hi, I'm Richie Mackay.
And I'm David Bolt, and you are listening to the Wrong Bias Podcast.
And on show 27, we catch up with the Open Singles Circuit top man, Neil Smith. Neil will explain why he's stepping away from the OSC. The lad also gives his views on the WBT, and there's a little bit of in-house chat. Like a phoenix rising from the flames, Richie's round up his back. And as usual, we have our competition sponsored by Alex Marshall Sports Limited, which we are very grateful for their support. Right, mate, here we are again. Show number 27. The first one is 2021. And a little bit positive news, mate. A vaccine on the horizon. I think I'm ranked at about 22 million to get mine.
I was just actually saying today that there was something came out saying that all adults are expected to have been vaccinated by September.
September.
Oh, hang on.
It went from mid-autumn to September now.
I was hoping it was going to be a little bit quicker than that, to be fair. But it's certainly a positive from our point of view, from the podcast point of view. We've said, they've been a little bit sporadically when we've been doing these podcasts because there hasn't been a great deal to talk about, etc. But I think with the World Championships currently underway and things that are happening, I think we've got a few little topics we can cover over the next 2 or 3 podcasts as well, which is nice. Yeah.
And I think over the next few months, we'll have a better idea how we stand outdoors. And of course, we've still got the 2019-20 indoor finals to get played off yet.
There is, yeah. Do you think that'll happen?
Well, I think everything's in abeyance until that happens, isn't it? You kind of really, you're sort of like racking and stacking your championships up, aren't you?
I know. I mean, it'd be good if it does, but then obviously...
Got to play it sometime, whether you play during the summer indoors, but they've got to play the finals.
Yeah. Players have worked hard to get there, so obviously they want to have that opportunity.
That's right.
We're obviously, I'm just wrapping my brains here. We are going to have a missing year, aren't we? We are going to have
this year
national winners from 2020, 2021 season.
It's written out the history books, mate. What happened in that year? No idea. So like a shower moment from the Bobby Ewan.
It'll be on the chase in about 2 years' time, won't it?
It will. Anyway, it's great to see balls back on the box, mate. But again, I'm going to have a dig at the BBC. I had a dig at them on the last one, and they're getting another pound's worth this time. Not a single mention on the BBC Sport website for that. It's been going on for a week, and there was not a mention of it. Now, for all snooker's UK Masters, and yes, this might not be a World Championships and it's an Open Championships, but you would expect to have something on a website, mate.
It's going to be live on TV next week.
Well, exactly, live on TV, mate, yeah. Where we'll probably have to put up with the rolling ceiling shots.
Yes, and I mean, obviously the BBC is going to be absolutely stowed off with the amount of live sport they're going to be able to report on as well. So you've got to give them a bit of sympathy for not putting them on, haven't you? It's like,
wall to wall balls and Ironside.
I wasn't aware of that because I do know generally there's usually a daily report on of people who's won the day before, etc. Haven't there? Which
I think the last report on the BBC website for bowls was back in September last year. There was not when you think, like I said, the snooker's been going on, reports on every day, daily, not a thing for the week. And whether it's the bowls problem or whether it's the BBC's, I don't know, but I thought it was poor show. Anyway, moving on, we've got another debate, mate. Scott Morland, Q, #ban bowl shots on TV. On the horizon. Right. Do we need to revisit the design, mate? They don't hang well, the current design. The straight leg ones don't hang well at all. Does it need to be a tailored design, thicker material? What do you reckon, mate?
I've seen loads. I have seen loads of comments from people this week, and I look at it and go, "Crikey, is there nothing better to talk about?" But I agree. Like, I mean,
it's part of the image of the sport, mate.
It is. You're right. It is, and And you're also right. Some of them have looked absolutely horrendous. But there's been the odd couple that have showed them off in the good thing that they are. But there's probably been a higher majority.
Is it just the design? They're just straight legged, or I think they just need to be a bit tailored in.
Yeah, I think a little bit of a tan on the legs wouldn't go far wrong neither as well.
Well, there is that as well.
I mean, Stewie Irwin, Northern boy, and obviously Jack did well in the pair. Stewie wore his shorts for the first day, and being an ex-boxer, I think I'll certainly say he looked great in them, because I really don't want to write for it.
Lovely.
Yeah, and again, maybe with the changes going forward, I would love to see a different design top as well. Like, I'm sorry, but those tops are not
looking a bit old.
They need bringing really bang up to date and some really top quality design on those going forward. And potentially, we're not Wimbledon, who insist on whites every year in the tennis. We're not there. Let's get some different stuff on there. Let's introduce some manufacturer stuff. Hence, like, I know make a black short, which would possibly look better. Or I haven't seen them on, but I'm sure not taken away from any of the manufacturers. I'm sure Aero, Drake's, etc. Tailors have all got potential designs for shorts going forwards, because they're going to be a good seller. So let's just see something different, man. It's just...
Anyway, full of praise to the commentators, Jason Parkinson and Nicky Brett, mate. I thought they've been tremendous.
Excellent. Totally
really good. They came across good. The banter was good. The knowledge was good. Their shot prediction was as good as everybody else's, because they were mostly wrong. I suppose it's one of those. You can only give your own opinion on what shot you would potentially play, or what the high percentage thing is. But correct, how many players do we know that you think they're going to do one thing and do completely the opposite? Completely the other, mate.
No, I've got to say, I mean, Jason. I've known Jason a lot of years. He's been around the sport a lot of years, and to be honest with you, I love having a chat I love chatting balls with Nicky whenever I see him, because he is balls running through his blood. Like, he's really, really knowledgeable guy, and I think he came across fantastic. And for all it was a bit of a shame that he couldn't compete, I think they pulled out a little bit of a diamond there, getting him in the commentary box with Jason. Great little double act, I thought. And it's just a bit of a shame not taking it away from the guys who are going to take over from BBC next week. But I would have liked to have seen both of them potentially have a lot of a bit parts commentary through the week as well on BBC, because
I didn't actually realise that they were getting shift out. I didn't realise, mate.
I just saw that earlier on. I didn't realise neither, but they were obviously just there for the interim period.
The early bit.
I think it's David, Sean, and John Price. I think are coming in. And like I said, not taking anything away from them, but I think it would just been nice for people watching the BBC to possibly see what everybody else has seen via YouTube and Facebook, because you look at everybody's comments and everybody's talked the same. They've given a lot of comments to both Jason and Nicky, so credit to them both. And I've got no doubt whatsoever that we'll see a lot, potentially more of them in the future. Obviously, especially from Jason's point of view, because Nicky's going to be predominantly playing, but. And on today's show, we welcome Neil Smith from the Open Singles Circuit. And Neil's not feeling too great, unfortunately. As we all know, there's been a major effect on our sport due to COVID. And unfortunately, just having a quick discussion with Neil, himself and Mandy have both actually contracted this. So how are you feeling, Neil?
I'm okay. Not too bad. Feel pretty tired all the time, but Mandy's really bad. She's been poorly for 3 or 4 days now. She's hardly got out of bed. She's hardly got any energy to get out of bed. She's only drinking water, which is very frightening, especially at night time. Really frightening. It
is frightening, Neil, and to be honest with you, it's quite frightening that there's still a lot of people out there who actually think that this is just a made-up disease that's there just to make everybody stay in the house as well, which is a sad state of affairs.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, such a shame. But, fingers crossed she's over the worst now, and hopefully tomorrow, the next day, she'll get slightly better, and then we can move forward.
Goes without saying, we wish you both all the best.
Yeah, thanks,
and a speedy recovery from that point of view now. We obviously saw your news, which... would it be about 3 or 4 months ago now, Neil, that you broke the news of stepping down from your position?
Yeah, it was early December. Yeah, we'd obviously had a long chats over the summer we've walked probably nearly 1,000 miles this summer during lockdown. Something that I never thought I'd actually do, and I've never been a fan of walking, but because there was nothing else to do, we actually really enjoyed it.
Yeah.
And we just got chatting about lots of different things. Obviously, OSC always seemed to crop up, and I don't know, it just felt it was the right time. We started discussing that we wanted to do other stuff, and I don't know, maybe where we have taken it as far as we can. I knew there'd be loads of people disappointed. I knew it, and obviously you could see by the messages on the post that we had, it was sort of sad really reading them all, and I knew that I was sort of letting people down, but I was determined that I wouldn't let it just die. I wanted it to carry on in some form.
I certainly wouldn't say that what you've done is letting anybody down. I'm sure everybody must look at the overall, where the OSC is now. We can go all the way back to the issues where we knew where OSC, had to basically come from a really uncertain position of people gaining that trust again to actually pay money to enter, what is in bowls term is a really, really nice prize in a lot of circumstances, playing a couple of days maybe for £1,000 or a bit more than that. I'm sure that was one of the challenges that you had, which we'll come on to, but I'm presuming when you've been out walking and you look at it and say, for all you love what you've done and where you've taken it, isn't the whole sacrifice thing of what you're actually missing out on in life by having to do that all the time?
Yeah, entirely right. We felt that we didn't have enough time to do some of the things we wanted to do, because obviously we were away most weekends. I can remember, I think maybe still a couple of years ago, we maybe 7 weekends on the trot we were away, which is great, and we loved every minute of it. Don't get me wrong, we loved every minute of it. But I think during the summer, it just made us realise that, if we want to do something else, we can't, because we're tied to this. And obviously the live streaming, which was introduced sort of over the last couple of years, that took a lot of doing as well, because we were there from 8 o'clock in the morning sometimes until 10 o'clock at night when the tournament finished. Even if I wasn't still in, we'd still be there at 10 o'clock at night, and they're just long days, really, really long days. And as I say, we chatted about lots of stuff. We've got some plans for the future, and we want to try and bring these into our life in the next 4 or 5 years now. I'm not going to give up totally playing. I don't want to just knock it on the head totally, but definitely going to cut back on what we've been doing.
I think it's going to be a very, very common theme that runs throughout the competitive world, Neil, as well, because, even you've had a real core of players who've always attended a lot of the competitions, but there must be thoughts from yourself as well. There are a lot of people who have found different things and different avenues to go down.
Yeah, I totally agree. You can even think back to when golf courses were open. I can name you half a dozen bowlers that were now playing a lot of golf and enjoying it.
I can name one and all. Neil, this fella here.
I've been playing golf with Dan Steadman and Tom Warner and Martin Heinzman, and that's just mad, isn't it? To think 12 months ago, you'd never believe I'd be playing golf with those three guys. And we've really enjoyed it. All of us have really enjoyed it. So it just shows that other people are thinking along the same lines about different things to do.
I think it will, from my point of view as well. I've already made the decision to cut back a lot on competitive stuff, but I'm sort of, in some respects, I am looking forward to getting back, because regardless of anything else, I love the sport. I want to see it thrive. I want it to progress. But at the same time, I'm quite interested to see how my new calendar and diary sort of fits around that whole thing, because I want to get out on the golf course as well.
I agree.
It'll be interesting to see how much of a clash there is, or how much free time you actually make for yourself by cutting back on those competitive goals, outdoors especially. And Richie probably knows this himself. It's like, and possibly, are you still playing? Do you play outdoor bowls now?
Yeah, I still play.
Of course you do, man. I played you down at Blooming Leamington last year. Sorry.
Yeah. Try to.
I've just seen your moments.
It's like you can go through an outdoor season and you do well in 2, 3, 4 competitions, and then trying to help your club out by representing them for the team. Yeah. And then you've got your county on a weekend. Obviously, everything's flooding back to us now because you ran your county team as well, and it just becomes bedlam. It's like just got no time at all for anything, to do anything. You're rushing in from work, or you finish your work, quickly grab a bit of tea, and then you've got to be down to the quarter past 6.
Yeah, totally agree.
And I think this has been the sort of a bit of a wake-up call, really, in a lot of respects to a lot of people, hasn't it? You just get hooked and you get drawn into it. And one of the things I'm thinking is it going to happen again when the season starts again? For all I'm saying, I'm not going to play as much competitive bowls. Everybody wants a bit here, there, and everywhere.
Yeah,
and
that's right.
You don't want to let people down.
Yeah.
And it's so easy to just get taken by the weight. You know what I mean? And end up playing 5-6 times a week again.
I think outdoors as well, even more so outdoors, because obviously, I can remember playing 13 days on the trot one season outdoors without a break. It was just absolutely mad because you have a little run in, a few things, and then of course, like you say, you don't want to let people down, so you end up playing top club 2-4s, and obviously with Middleton as well, and it can get too much. It really can, and I think there's going to be a lot of people thinking the same thing like we are.
For all it's a sport, it gets to a situation where it turns out to be a second job. I mean,
an unpaid second job.
Very unpaid.
Well, it is. You're right. Unpaid second job. You enjoy it, but you don't realise how much time you spend away from. You get in from work, you grab something to eat, and then you straight out again bowling. And like you say, 13 days on the spin, you sort of and then you say, I'm a bit sick now, a bit fed up.
Yeah, you do. Yeah. And I think when you're thinking like that, there's something wrong, don't you?
Yeah,
exactly. You shouldn't be thinking like that.
Yeah. It starts to get where you lose the enjoyment of it, don't you? Because you just end up throwing balls for the sake of throwing balls. And in a lot of respect, I've probably been a little bit disrespectful in league games, because you'll get there and you just think, crikey, I've had 4 nationals this week. I'm absolutely shattered. Helping the club out here, it ends up even deciding what shots you're going to play, because you just think, I'd far rather play a runner and get me ball up there as quick as possible and get the game out than it would by playing the right ball and just drawing to the head.
I find myself trying to speed things up just so I can get away.
Get that mat up.
It is. Mass up every end, and then just get on with it. And first,
I do that because I've got the washing up to do when I get in.
I do genuinely believe, and I've seen it again. Comments watching a little bit of the balls on Facebook and YouTube, like I have, and I still see the same old comments of, this game will fail if we don't get youth into it, blah blah, and the game's a dying sport, and I've said it loads. It's not a dying sport at all, and I firmly believe that potentially for what we will lose in players coming back to the sport, I actually think there's going to be a new wave of new players coming into the sport as well. For the simple fact of lack of things to do for so long now, people will be craving exercise and different activities. So, I mean, Bowls England are on the case, especially for outdoors, with regards to a national open weekend, which they're trying to promote every club to have an open weekend on the same date, and that extends to Crown Green and hopefully indoors, etc. as well. So there's a lot happening, and the understanding is there that there's going to need to be a massive push again. But I firmly believe that I don't think it's a dying sport. I just think there's different things to do. We've just got to maybe do things a little bit different. And national competitions have maybe got to be tailored a little bit more to short, sharp, let's get on the green, get these games played, and let us have a little bit of a life and get home and sit at 8 o'clock rather than 9:15 on a night or whatever.
That's right.
So time will tell for that one. But just getting back to the open singles circuit, what were the initial challenges that you faced? We touched on it about that gaining the confidence again. How did you get over that barrier, do you think?
Yeah, it was obviously a massive shock. What happened with Steve Roberts was a real shame, because I know deep down, I think the guy, actually, his motives were good, but it just went totally wrong. I don't know. I haven't seen him since, so I couldn't really say anything for sure. But I didn't mind the guy. I thought there's no way he would have spent all the time he was building that website and everything else if he wasn't going to try and do what he did. I just think it went drastically wrong. So, of course, it created a massive problem for anybody else coming behind, didn't it? The biggest thing was obviously sponsorship, and even now I still think with what's happened with COVID, that sponsorship is still going to be the biggest problem for anybody who's trying to build a circuit. I mean, we've been really lucky having the loyal sponsors. We managed to get 3 or 4 really loyal sponsors, and they stuck with us throughout. Can't thank them enough. Like Simon Davies at ProWeave and Jacqueline Henderson have been fantastic. Potter's Resort they've supported us, and without them we wouldn't have had a circuit. So yeah, it's been tough, but I would say that's the hardest thing. And I'm not probably the best person to go asking companies for money. It's not an easy job to do that, is it? There's some people who got the gift of the gab. There's certain things I do well, like running tournaments, and I really enjoy doing that side of it. But asking for money isn't one of them. But so I was chuffed that the people that got on board with us stayed with us, and it made my life a bit easier. Not having to find new sponsors every year.
Was it important that you got the endorsement from the AIBA, Neil?
Yes, it was.
Just to get people's confidence back.
Exactly, that's right. And that's the main reason why, even now, that they still hold the OSC funds in the IB bank account, because at the start I knew that the last thing anybody wanted was some guy holding a bank account with thousands of pounds in it. So I thought, with Peter Thompson in charge of the finances, it's still all OSC money. There's nothing wrong with that, but they've been brilliant with us. Absolutely brilliant. Anybody who has a bad word to say against the IBA, I would contest that every day, because they have been fantastic. They've worked so hard.
Peter is so passionate about promoting this game and taking it to that next stage. And I totally agree with you there. And that was a really key move, I think, on your part to get that back. And because, just touching back, I mean, we're actually going to revisit WSB at some point on a future podcast. Now, when we think back to it, and I agree with you, Neil, WSB's concept was a great thing. And it got to a point where it was so close. I mean, there was TV on board, there was this, it was something that I genuinely believe could have been that next step.
Yeah.
Now for me, the open single circuit is tremendous. In a lot of respects, it's just a smaller scale WSB, because it's a lot about money going in, money coming out, but the WSB was relying on the fact of big money entry, little bit of TV sponsorship, etc., building a big pot that people could play for. And without a shadow of a doubt, it attracted a lot of people. So do you think, from where the open single circuit is now, which I think is fantastic, now that the confidence is back there, obviously there's going to be the uncertainty of when we do get back, how many people are going to, really commit to it again, which we hope is a strong following like you've already had. There is still that opportunity to go that one step further. And you did run one Masters event, didn't you?
Yes, we did. Yeah.
Skill event. How, I didn't get involved with that one, Neil. How did that go?
It went really well. We were full. The entries were full within an hour. Again, that was £50 entry, but we were playing for £3,000 first prize, 1,000 runner-up. Which the idea was to maybe have 4 or 5 of those through the season.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, our sponsors for that event didn't want to carry on. During the event, they were so positive about it, but obviously getting them to commit for the further events was really tough. Even though the event went really well, so it was a bit disappointing, because I felt that was our next step, and we could have had 25 regular tournaments with maybe 4 or 5 of these masters, running alongside, sort of semi-professional tournaments, if you like.
And I still think that's there. And 50 quid's a lot of money, and it's probably going to be a lot of money in the new circumstances because of whatever's going to happen. We're going to have to pay this money back that's being chucked at COVID somewhere along the line, so people's pockets are going to be hit through jobs, etc. But I still think there's probably a market there of people on players who would potentially pay £100. And I don't know what the darts and other sports, they must pay an entry fee. I mean, a lot of those players are going to be sponsored, surely, but competitions have got to generate some funds through entries from some kind.
It's funny you should say that about the darts, because I watched Gerwyn Price has just won the world title. I listened to an interview out the day after he won it, and he said about entry fees. He qualified through Q School 7 years ago or 6 years ago, and then the day after he qualified, he was told that he had to pay £200 a tournament entry fee or something like that, and he didn't realise that. He thought they were all free. So there you go, because he said he wouldn't have even bothered going to the Q School if he'd have realised he had to pay all this entry money. But as it turned out, he got through, he got his card, he then obviously paid the money, and obviously he's now world champion. But just shows you that there is that entry fee involved in, I think, in snooker and dart.
Yeah, and I think probably people forget about that, and if you get a core of 60 to 100 players, and you limit your competitions to maybe 64 for obviously time scales, etc. But I genuinely believe that there would be 60 to 100 players out there prepared to pay £100 if they knew that there was going going to be 6,500, 6,400. There is still a market out there, and I genuinely believe, and I hope it comes through the open single circuit format.
There'll be more on the open single circuit later in the show. Now Neil gives his views on the WBT.
I've always been a fan of the World Bowls Tour. I'm just really disappointed the way it's going and the way it's gone. But hopefully now they've got sort of some fresh eyes on it. It may start again and maybe get back to where it should be. It's disappointing to see what they did this year. I was pretty disappointed to see the way they picked the qualifiers, if you like a lot of other people were. But when Richard Maddison was in charge of the World Bowls Tour, I had loads of conversations with Richard about working together, but we never really got it going, for one reason or another, which was a shame, because I offered to run all his qualifiers for him to take the weight off him.
Yeah.
But nothing ever came of it, unfortunately, which is a shame.
I'm going to say let's see what happens in the next 6 months with regards to the WBT, because let's just say there's a bit of benefit of the doubt there that there was a lot of changes happened. COVID was, not an easy thing to manage. No. Regardless, I think we've certainly got to give them the opportunity to see where they're going to go.
When you look at the actual top 16, I don't totally agree with everybody saying it's a closed shop, because at the end of the day, I can remember being in qualifiers with Merv and with Rob, and Greg. They were all in the qualifiers too. Yeah. So, they've worked their way into those positions. So I'm sort of not totally against, but when you, I think it's the lack of activities, it's the lack of opportunity. You look at players like 17, 18, Wayne and Scott, Perry, who's knocking on the door. It's sort of lack of opportunity, isn't it? If they don't qualify 1 year, they've basically shot themselves in the foot, and they're going to drop right down those rankings. So it's a lot harder, isn't it? Once you're in the 16, it sort of makes it a little bit more comfortable, isn't it?
The closed shop bit comes from, you look back at, I've seen a few posts recently of competitions that happened back in 1996 and 2000.
But I was looking at the same thing.
Still there then. And you've gone, where?
Same players.
Well, it's been a while, but welcome to Richie's Roundup. Cue the music. Following Bowls England's successful Let's Roll initiative, they have earmarked the 28th to the 31st of May as National Open Weekend. There are resources available for any interested club, and we will add a link to our website at www.wrongbias.com. There's also a chance to share your thoughts in a Back to Bowls survey. It's been run in conjunction with the Bowls Development Alliance and the British Crown Green Bowling Association. Closing date is the 28th of February. It takes 5 minutes to complete. News from Down Under. As Bowls Australia will be looking for a new national coach after Steve Glasson's decision to step down. During his 10-year stint, Glasson has steered the Jackaroos to several successes, notably the 2018 Gold Coast Commonwealth Games, where they won 5 gold and 2 silvers. And congratulations go to England's Mark Dawes and Jamie Chesney on winning the Open Pairs, and to Scotland's Julie Forrest and Stuart Anderson on winning the Mixed Pairs, and Wales' Laura Daniels on her match play women's singles title. And finally, Disability Bowls England member Daniel Adams is taking on a challenge to walk 10 kilometres, that's just over 6 miles, every Saturday and Sunday until the end of March. By the end of the challenge, he will have walked an amazing 135 miles. Daniel is raising money for Disability Bowls England. Anybody wishing to donate, we will add a link to the website. And now we return to the open single circuit. I know we always get on about the WBT ranking systems, and the one thing that rattles me, and probably Davey lesser extent, is the actual rank seedings. And I think the open singles, where everybody starts from scratch the following year, is I think it's great. I think it gives everybody, you're on a level playing field, and there's no favouritism, shall we say, seedings. There's no,
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, it doesn't bother me at all, that, Richie. I
did like to sort of like incriminate you.
I mean, this has been my argument for so. Why would you not want to see a new crop of bowlers every single year?
Yeah,
great to see. Has there ever been any discussion around Scotland, Ireland, Wales potentially having their own there?
Yes, yeah, we did end up having a couple in Wales. We've had three. We had one in Radnor. We've had one at Sully, Mountain Ash, which is Cynnon Valley. So we have been into Wales. They've loved it, but again, I think they're just struggling for sponsorship. I think that's the one thing that, I don't know, just stops tournaments, stops clubs going ahead for a second time or a third time. You know, even our regular tournaments, I get the odd message from established tournaments. Oh, you know, we're struggling this year. You know, can we have less prize money? Can we play for less prize money? And if we have to go down that route, then so be it. You know, I think players would rather play a tournament for less money than have no tournaments at all.
That throws the ball into the players' court, doesn't it? Because if you ultimately are playing to get to the big grand final where there is better money on offer, etc., etc., it's that player's choice whether they want to go all the way across to Wales for, you know, let's just say from Sunderland where I am to Wales to potentially go and play for £500 instead of £1,000 and think I could probably cover my costs and a little bit more.
Yeah, that's right.
However, the ultimate aim is to get those ranking points in place to get to that bigger event. So, you know, I think I just wondered whether Scotland had ever maybe discussed.
Yeah, I've had a couple of conversations with Graham McDougall, and you know, I'd obviously know Graham pretty well from the PBA days when I used to play a lot on the PBAs. But it's just making that step. I mean, I think the problem is with Scotland, the clubs are quite well spread out, aren't they? Over a big area. So in the end, nothing sort of came of it. But you know, I have talked about it with a few players, and maybe you know with Peter on board. I mean, that is hopefully where it's going to go. Peter will have the connections to maybe take it that little bit further.
Like I say, I just think it is great, and hopefully, I mean, when you mentioned there, Neil, Peter's obviously taken that on board. Is he taking over the sort of reins from you? Yeah.
So we had several discussions in December, and he got back to me. I think it was just before Christmas actually, and they've decided that they are going to continue with it, and it's going to be run under the EIBA banner, which is really good. Obviously, he's just got to work out who's going to do what. I presume Carl will have a big say in how it runs, because obviously Carl runs his own tournament anyway. Yeah, he knows how it all works, so there's no one better really. So hopefully it'll be Carl, maybe one or two others that'll help him, because it's like anything, it's not easy. You can't do it by yourself. You know, I look at how much work Katie's put into, the website, and she spent hours and hours and hours on that website. So they're going to have to get someone to do the work. But yeah, I'm chuffed that Peter has agreed to take it over, and I think it's in good hands. And like I say, I think with Peter's connections, sponsorship wise, and maybe the other governing bodies, I think that's good for the future. With Scotland, maybe Ireland, and Wales on board.
Certainly, like I say, I'll back you up on that one. I think Peter will, he's certainly a great man to take it on, and hopefully, with the knowledge that he's got, and I'm sure he'll be the first to hold his hands up and say some ththings haven't gone right and some things have. He'll have learned a lot, and hopefully he can drive it forward as well. Yeah, that's right. So where would you like to see it end up now?
I've had conversations with Peter for the last 4 or 5 years, and he's desperate to try and get this middle ground, if you like, between the OSC and the World Bowls Tour. It's like a semi-professional tour. We've had loads of conversations about it. I think he's even got a name for it, the English Masters. He wants to call it, and maybe half a dozen tournaments, decent money, probably midweek to get away from the weekends, TV, that sort of thing. So we've had these conversations before, so I can see him actually developing that. As I say, he's got the contacts to do that, whereas I probably didn't have those contacts, so I was probably a little bit restricted in that way. Yeah. So I think it's in good hands to move forward. And
just going back to the very early days in the open singles, Neil, financially, did you have to input any of your own money to get it actually up and working? Because there'll be no money there to start it off with.
No, not exactly. What we tended to do with again, it was down to the IBA. We owe them so much. We always managed to break even at the end of each year.
Right.
I don't know how we managed to do it, but the problem is a lot of the like for instance the grand final is in November, and all the prize money is paid for by the OSC.
Right.
So basically, the IBA were basically paying that prize money for us, and then we were recouping that in the player levies up until April. So by the time we played the last tournament in April, we were basically bang on break even with all the player levies. And again, without Peter and their support, we would never have been able to run the grand final, because we didn't have the money to pay the players until the end of the season. So they've been brilliant, and so it has been a struggle. There's no doubt about it.
It reiterates the fact as well that people are quite quick to jump onto the national governing bodies and think that they don't do X, Y, and Z. But there's a lot goes on behind the scenes that people have got no idea about. I mean, that's probably news to a lot of people. The fact that obviously the AIBA put that trust after everything that had happened. But again, this for me shows that Peter, from a commercial point of view, knows where he wants the sport to go, and it was a no-brainer to see that something like the OSC concept, it's a no-lose situation. People don't enter, you don't run the competition, full stop. There's no pressure to actually run it and have that money in place, because if you don't get the entries, it ain't going to run. It sustains itself. So good on the EIB, and I think it's great. I mean, prior to speaking to Peter, Neil, did you get anybody banging the door down and saying, I'd really like to have a crack at this and take over?
I've had a couple of comments, funny enough, the first person to message me was Carl Heans. Right. Carl messaged me within minutes of putting the post on. So I thought, wow, that's a great start to think that Carl would be interested. That's before I even spoke to Peter.
Yeah.
And then, I had one or two other messages, but nothing sort of firm. They just asked basically what the plans were and if I'd got anybody lined up. But I think there's a few people already offered to help Peter as well. Peter's had a couple of emails from people willing to help, which is good. So yeah, I mean, who knows whether it'll stay the same? I mean, it's a good format. Everybody loves the format. We tinkered with it a little bit by adding some of the pairs events, which were fun events. The double threes, 3-bowl pairs. They were good events because it gave everybody a second go during the weekend. Especially like on, for instance, the Christmas tournament at Dolphin. That was always well supported. We'd always have 86 in the singles, 32 pairs, and everybody loved it. The fact that they knew they had a second game the next day if the singles went wrong. So the pairs always used to be quite popular. Whether they do away with that, who knows? And I like to see that there is room for it, especially at the bigger clubs.
But Neil, I mean, Richie, I don't know if you've got anything to add.
I've just got one thing to ask you, Neil. Away from the open singles, young Lucy and Katie starting to make a name in the game. You must have been immensely proud when they won the national indoor pairs last 2019. They're still current holders. Yeah, probably the longest holders in history at the minute. You must be delighted. It must have been really chuffed to bits, mate.
Oh, absolutely, Richie. I mean, until you actually witness something like one of your children doing something like that, you don't know how special it is. Yeah. I mean, I've played this game for 40 plus years now. I mean, I've never won a national title. I've lost in 6 finals.
Mixed fours. Did you lose in the mixed fours was it Lucy or Katie?
Oh yeah, mixed fours indoor final. We were champions for 15 seconds.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, Mark Dawes was wide, and it was coming down the ring, and he's wide. We've won it, and he just flicked the bowl over and left to get shot. And for 15 seconds, I was a national champion. But as I say, the girls, they've been outstanding and so proud. We both are. We've watched them play, and the way they conduct themselves on the green is we're as proud as that as the way winning anything. Mm-hmm. We've seen some pretty ugly things on the green. Yeah, the last few years surrounding the girls. I mean, I won't go into a lot of detail, but there's a lot of jealous people out there, right? And they've had to deal with a lot locally and other stuff. I'm so proud of the way they've reacted, and to go down to Wales in, obviously, was it February, March, just before all this lockdown happened, and to win the British Isles as well.
Yes.
But they were absolutely phenomenal. It's such a shame that they've never been given the chance they deserve, really. And
Internationally, I was going to add that on as well, because obviously the indoor women's squad is that strong at the minute.
They've made the decision for now that they don't want any part of it, which is a real shame. I would love them to play for England, but some of the things that have happened to them, especially under 25s level, I mean, it's just a bit of a joke, really. How they were representing England in the World under 25s at Newport a few years ago, and they got a phone call or an email 10 minutes before they were due to go on the green to say that neither of them had made the team, the under 25 team.
Right.
This was 10 minutes before they're just about to represent England in the world. And they got in that because of the winning and runner-up in the under-25 singles. So they both were in it. So how can they not be good enough to play in the under-25 team?
Yeah.
And since then, they've done a lot more than, and they've had several trials and played well in those trials. I can remember Barry Jenkins saying to me, Barry sat behind the rink watching Kylie, and Katie was on the same rink, I believe. And after Katie had played, she was the best player on the rink, playing two in... I think it was, I might get this wrong. It might have been in Wendy King's rink. And Katie was really good game. And Barry said to Katie, "You got a great chance of getting in the full team, let alone the under-25 team." And they didn't get in either.
Did they not?
Didn't get in either.
Has COVID had any effect on their sort of passion for the game at all, Neil? Are they
a little bit, yeah.
Are they really looking forward to getting back, or
Lucy's looking forward to getting back. Katie's not. Katie's really been hurt by it. Yeah. Her feelings have been hurt by it,
which is a shame.
It is a shame.
It's like, I suppose in a lot of respects as well, Neil, I'm sure she'll come back in our own time.
Yeah.
But I think you either go one way or the other. You either take that and really grasp it and say, I'm going to use this to really, really drive my game and do everything I possibly can to show that they're making a mistake. Yeah. Or she may feel that, she's really upset by the situation, but then, our ability is not going to be shown to be able to make that decision again for her. So I know it must be a really tough one for her, but sometimes it's a really, really hard one, because technically it's like, in a lot of respects, the selectors have won, because she's not going to bother again. But then if she continues to keep battering the door down, I know it's so frustrating, and there's you'll know yourself, Neil.
Yeah, of course, I had it for 2 years myself.
Male and female, who probably do this and have done this for years and years and years and questioned, what have I got to do? But, they're already pairs and British Isles champions, national and British Isles. If they kept doing things like that and kept showing what they're capable of, other people would start to question, why is it not happening? You know what I mean?
That's right.
It's one of those. And especially with them being so young as well, let's just hope that they don't lose too many potential top years whilst they're at, whilst they're at that age.
I agree. I would love to see them change their minds. And we've got big plans now. We've even talked about buying a place in Spain now, when we can finally get over there and have a look.
So was that an exclusive you've given us there, Neil? Open singles to come in Spain.
I was just about to say we'll be seeing the open or single or
Barcelona.
Yeah, that's it.
You heard it here first.
What is it?
It's funny because you laugh about it, but we had actually talked about overseas tournaments. I talked to Malcolm and Greg in Jersey about playing in Jersey.
Right.
And
Spain sounds better.
Yeah, and Cyprus. We talked about going to Cyprus, things like that. And so, I mean, as I say, who knows what's down the line? But and the thing is, with the OSC, we're not going anywhere, well, especially yet. I mean, who knows? In 4 or 5 years' time, we might end up living in Spain. But we're only here a phone call away. That's one thing we were good at, was organising tournaments.
Yeah.
And I'm sure that the OSC will still go from strength to strength.
Yeah.
Well, like I say, I think we've pretty much covered everything. I think it's been a great chat, Neil, and obviously, certainly from both of us, I'm sure we both wish you a sort of a happy open single circuit retirement and enjoy doing the things that you've found over these last few months. Definitely, we hope you obviously both recover as quickly as possible.
Yeah, cheers.
from this disease.
Yeah, that's the
that goes for
thing
anybody else out there as well. It's certainly taken a little bit of a hold at the minute. So let's just hope we get through it and get these vaccines done as soon as possible. But we wish you all the best, Neil. Really appreciate you coming on and really enjoyed the chat.
Thank you. Thanks, Dave.
Cheers. Thanks, Neil. Thank you.
Thank you, mate. All the best. Cheers.
Bye.
Thank you.
Take care. And it's competition time. Thanks as always to Alex Marshall Sports for their support of our podcast. And the question for this podcast is Neil Smith. We've just been having a bit of a chat with him and obviously talking about what he plans to do in the future. He mentioned that they're potentially looking to buy a house out in a European country. So the simple question is, which country was it? Drop us a line with the answer either on our email at wrong.bias@hotmail.com. Drop us a message or a post or a comment on Facebook or Twitter, and I will be doing a live draw at some point in the near future for a prize to be disclosed.
Right, mate. Show 27 over and done with. Enjoyed the chat with Neil Smith. Came across really well. Nice to hear the ins and outs of the open singles. And we both do wish him and Mandy back to good health and enjoy their, as you said, their open singles circuit retirement. Just going back to the World Championships, mate, we nearly had a what happened next moment with Mr. Marshall. I don't know whether you've seen it or not, but in the game against Skelton and Stepney in the pairs, Alex, last ball on the end, picks his ball up, sets himself on the mat, and then right at the last minute, he realised that he had the wrong bias on. you could tell that he realised because there was a little smirk on his face, and he flipped his ball over, and I could see. We wouldn't have said nothing, Alex. Honest, we would not have mentioned it on the show.
He just wanted that. What happened next? Spot on Question of Sport.
Yeah. That's what it was. Here's a question for you. Has anybody ever thrown a wrong bias up on the World Championships? Mr. Corkill, that's a question for you, mate.
Not sure. David will definitely know, so if he listens to it, I'm sure he'll drop us a comment and let us know.
Yeah. But, and of course, the timeout klaxon as well, mate, Alex.
Well, there's been two, hasn't there? One of them was Perry, which,
Perry.
You know, no, I don't think anybody anywhere would probably be shocked that Perry would have one timeout in his career. Some of the things I've seen with Perry didn't shock me one little bit, but saw one, was it yesterday? I think it was, with Alex.
Yeah.
And I've had to get an exclusive, because I had to ask him the question, because obviously you couldn't tell by the coverage whether he'd actually asked for it or whether it was his mistake or whether it was the umpire's mistake. But I've had it on good authority that he asked how many timeouts he had, but then forgot to ask. So there was a bit of a clown emoji sent on the message that he sent us. So he realises that it was his mistake. So there you go.
I knew there was someone up by the thud of the balls that hit the backboard. And speaking of thud of
he might have nutted the back or something. But
and speaking of thud of the balls, Andy Walters, my giddy aunt, I was hiding for cover. I thought the house was coming down. He let them two Raspers go.
I was the wrath of that 2 years ago because I was petrified for my balls.
And best of it was the only time that he should have fired was in the pairs when he was 3 down and he dropped a 3. And I said, "Oh, he's got to unleash it here." No.
In a lot of respects, I quite like that type of thing. I mean, we remember back to, you always knew when Mr. Bryant was going to let one go, and there was a bit of a whoosh from the crowd.
He's going to drive you.
Come down from Andy, it would be great on TV, wouldn't it?
Aye.
Catching somebody sweet as a nut and just absolutely scattering heads would be tremendous. But no, like I say, in the main, I've caught bits and pieces of it. We've touched on the commentary, which has been great. Got to say, the general organisation seems to have been very good.
Yeah,
we've had a few updates on how they've gone about adopting the guidelines, etc. So there's a lot of sanitising and things going on, which is good. They're using different jacks. So got to take your hat off to those who have organised that type of thing. And the other thing that's come out was probably Andy Thompson's retirement from the World Bowls Tour itself. Yeah, I think that's
33 years.
It wasn't unexpected. I think he's been winding down his game for a lot of years now. I think, seen a lot of years. I think a few years now. He's obviously got his management roles and he's got this position in the Commonwealth Games for Australia as well, which I've got no doubt will take a lot of time. And hat off to his, the longevity of his career and what he's done in the sport. So hats off to Andy on that respect.
it might just be my stupid sense of humour, but they before obviously the BBC started coverage, the Bulls 2 decided to do interviews at the end, and they put the winners on a chair with some tape around it. And it reminded me of a hostage video. They were sitting there. If you look down, they're asking for money. They're holding them for ransom. That was great when you see them with the mask on, sitting on the chair. You kind of need them sitting out.
I must admit, probably the one thing that relates to that from my point of view is there's obviously a reason for it, but I question why they've got to walk up the green with their masks on and then balls. I didn't get that at all. Like you're either safe from COVID or you're not safe from COVID. And with no crowd there with a mask on, it's hardly got it.
But anyway, if anybody wants to pay a ransom to release these 16 hostages down at the Potters Resort, you can contact us.
One quick thing I just want to drop in, and we've had a great response to it so far, but I have posted on our Facebook page and my Bold Bulls page a Back to Bulls survey.
Right.
A really, really important survey for Bulls England, etc., just to find out why and how people are feeling the way they are about coming back to Bulls. I think it's going to be a lot of critical information that the governing bodies are going to need to see where they are. So if you do get, I don't think it's the longest survey in the world. If you do get a spare moment,
I think
if you popped on.
I think it's a 5-minute job, folks.
Great
well,
stuff.
There you go, mate. Watch what you're doing. I hope you enjoy the show.
Yes, definitely. Thank you for listening and hope you've enjoyed the show.
This has been a Dodgy production.